Welcome to the Godland Podcast, episode 53. This is Rich.
I am Steve.
And I'm Kristen.
All right, let's jump straight into the playlist. Kristen, give us an update.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, Mass Effect Worlds had me thinking about something that we rarely get to experience in the Gauntlet, and in games sort of in general, which is that we rarely get to talk about these sort of transition games. Because we have lots of one-shots or things that are very episodic, to where maybe it's the same game every week, but they're all wrapped up in their own little individual segments, like very one-shot episodes, even though we kept going with it. And Mass Effect isn't. It's a proper campaign with a proper plotline. And this past week, we had what I guess I'm going to call a transition game, which is we'd had 2 games already, and the second game had been all action, all the time, constant ramping up in the plot line until this huge peak of explosions and death and flying things and Geth flying away on spaceships and all sorts of stuff. And then this game was sort of this interesting in-between of coming down off of all of that action, Act 1 actually introducing characters to each other, because in Game 2 we had new characters come in who just launched straight into the action, and for the entirety of the game they didn't have actually a chance to introduce themselves to each other. And so the start of the third game was the players from Game 2 getting to go, "Hi, my name is Killiel, and what are you doing here? And thanks for not stabbing me in the face," and, various stuff. So that was actually kind of nice. And sort of this transition, embracing this time to build characters and build relationships that hadn't happened before, but also moving forward, everybody's characters had a motivation for getting them to the planet where we'd met, and they all revolved around red sand, which, if you've played the game, you've heard of red sand, this sort of hypnotic and power enhancing material. But they each had their reasons for getting to the planet and studying the red sand. Go ahead.
Sorry, are there psionics in the Mass Effect universe, or psychic power type things? What do you mean by power enhancing?
So Mass Effect World has biotic abilities. So things like warp and pull and throw and things like that. Telekinesis sort of oriented things.
Yeah, okay.
For lack of a better word. Yeah. And so those are enhanced by red sand. But while we each had our own reasons for getting to the planet, at the end of Game 2, we had destroyed any habitable space on that planet. All the bad guys were dead.
Wait,
a lot of the settlers
planet?
Were dead. Yeah, because it had been, it had sort of an environmental bubble that the miners had lived in, and we broke their bubble. So
why would you do that to underage children?
Well, the Geth had to be killed, and they were on one side of the bubble, and I and my spaceship were on the other side of the bubble, and gosh darn it, things need to happen. But the end result is that moving forward, we had to kind of take a moment for all the characters to reassess what their new motivations would be. Because we all sort of joined the story for different reasons, we had to kind of figure out what could we agree on as our motivations, what would keep us on the same ship, which was really nice. It was a nice opportunity that we rarely get to have. I want to say the word slow, and that sounds bad, but I mean it in the best way possible. A very comfortable character building and reassessing and sort of conversations with very few people needing to be punched in the face. People were punched in the face, but just not nearly as many people. So it was nice.
What's the lineup for the next game look like player-wise? Are you guys going to have to sort of do the same thing again? Introduce yet a few more people to find excuses for them to go along with everybody?
Right. So we're thinking not, hopefully. Wednesday's kind of got a blend of consistent people who show up every week, and then also people who sort of float in and out. And between games 1 and 2, game 3 only had one new player, and that was player Farrell, joined us just for that game. But between those two games, we should have enough players to fill out the table, and so we shouldn't have any new people. Now getting the action-packed Krogan from first game, if they show back up, getting them reincorporated in the story should be interesting. Since Scott declared them dead, we'll have to figure a way out of bringing them back to life or getting them some new characters. But we'll have to see.
Was that a punitive measure? Or like
no,
I
it
don't.
Wasn't. It wasn't actually punitive. It was purely story-driven. It made complete sense. It would have been very difficult to narrate how they would have made it out. The circumstances that we left the mines in, and the circumstances we left the colony, would have been incompatible with the continuation of life. So they have to be dead, or else there has to be a Mass Effect miracle. But I don't think those exist. So.
It's according to how much outcry there is. There may be a new ending written in.
There may be. Well, I mean, hey, Shepard got rebuilt after game 1, so I don't see why they can't rebuild one Zen Buddhist Krogan and one Krogan who can't control his own strength and snaps the necks of innocent children. So, can't wait to have those guys back.
Real quick, that puts me in mind of this stunt, which is a feat or ability in Spirit of the Century, which is basically a pulp action Fate game. One stunt in the game lets you die, and you die sort of in a way that nobody could possibly have survived, and you like fall into a volcano, or get punched off of the side of a plane or whatever, something implausible, and it's just, oh, well, that guy's gone. And then, of course, you're not. You took the stunt, you come back. Saw this used to great effect once, and it's just one of those things that brilliantly encapsulates a part of the genre.
Kristen, I want to circle back to your idea around transitions, because I find that really interesting. I think, to me, I hear big action, set piece, huge combat, and then a moment to breathe, a moment for the characters to kind of figure out why they give a crap about the thing that they did and what they're doing next. I really enjoy that moment in games, and when it's lacking, I find myself, it's harder for me to engage with the other player characters, because it just seems like it's just plot. The GM is pushing action, or one person's agenda is overtaking. So I hear you. I think transition is really important. I find it interesting in the Gauntlet style of those one-shots, how challenging that has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
I think that opportunity for transition really kind of, I think you spoke about it perfectly. It prevents or sort of waylays the fatigue, playing full out all the time, all the way to the wall, maximum RPG. It's wearing, and so it's good to get to regroup. Yeah,
that's one of the things I love about Lady Blackbird, is that you're going to burn through a lot of your pool, and you have to have a flashback scene or a refreshment scene, and it nests it right in there mechanically, reinforcing that, and I think it's beautiful.
Rich, I think you and I are maybe two of the few remaining Gauntlet people who still like Lady B. I like it. Really like it. I know a lot of people have gotten tired of the endless tags, but I just feel like if you set the stage right, it's still a great game. I still really like it.
Yay.
I still haven't played it.
Oh, Steve.
It's a big gap in my, recent gaming history.
Well, I guess you can't move then.
I will happily run it for you over the internet, too.
There we go. So I can move?
You may move.
No!
Excellent.
Damn
Thank
you, Rich! No! That's not how this works! Lost another breather to the internet.
Anything else that you want to talk about Mass Effect Worlds?
Nope.
Fantastic. I'm going to sneak in and give a quick update on my home game of Dungeon World. Not a whole lot happened. It's a 90-minute game. I've got a 10-year-old. He has a pretend wand that he's made out of K'NEX, and a lot of the game is him flinging his wand around. But okay, every once in a while, he has these savant moments, such as the point when he looked at me and said, "Wait, this summon spirit first-level spell I have. I can summon spirits?" Well, yes, you summoned the spirit of the wizard last game session. Right. Didn't you say that the white wolf is a spirit that jumps between the villagers? Yes, I said that. I want to summon the spirit of the white wolf and make him answer a question about how I can kill him. I'm like, really? You want to do that?
Yes.
My wife's eyes got big, like, you really want to do that? So it was a pretty great little moment of setting the scene, and of course, not quite the same conversation he had with the wizard, who was very forgiving. The white wolf was like, ask your darn one question. And he says, how do I kill you and not kill the villager you've inhabited? And he says, if any damage you do to me, half of it passes on to the villager. And of course my son's like, I am very tricky. And then I thought, you know what? This white wolf's not going away quite yet. And so he paused and kind of tests the little boundaries of the circle that was created and says, know this, wizard. I know your scent. If, when the night comes and I arrive, you are where I can find you, I will. And I pause because my son's eyes are getting bigger and bigger, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to find a word that is not quite as terrifying as nightmares, and I will gobble you up. And he's like, oh.
Very nice ending.
Yes, gobble you up was good because I could kind of jump into the old Little Red Riding Hood stuff. But yes, fun was had by all, even though the plot did not move a whole lot, and he felt very accomplished. So
well done, son of Richard. Well done.
Indeed. All right, so that's my Dungeon World update. It's very quick and painless, everybody. Now let's move on to Steve. Steve, what would you like to share with us?
I got to play Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. I believe I talked about this on the podcast, I think last year, like last summer or so, when I first...
Yes, I remember it because I listened and thought, man, that game sounds very, very hard but interesting.
Hey, thanks for summing up what I'm about to say.
Sorry, spoilers.
No.
It's the TLDR version.
Only summing up. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, brief, refresher, it's a very wide open game where you are presented with cases that you play what are they, the like homeless urchins or whatever that Sherlock gives the lesser cases to or whatever. And by lesser cases, it seems to usually be murders. Sherlock just can't be bothered. Anyway, so you are playing these guys going around and investigating mysteries, but I was playing with two people. We were doing it a little more collaboratively, which means we were sort of talking out loud the whole time. And I have found I don't work great that way. The first time I played, it was with we read out the entries, but until we had a very good idea of which place we wanted to visit next, we would just sort of, sit in contemplation or quietly go over newspapers or, quietly reread the entries in the book. And
that sounds scintillating.
It is. It's amazing. We should. Yeah, you should. It's such
the quietness.
Yeah, it's such a great feeling when you figure something out. But this mystery sort of, I don't know, it led us a merry chase. And at a certain point, one of the guys I was playing with was just he was just like, every new clue, I don't know, I'm pretty sure it's a vampire. It just sounds like Dracula's. That's the only thing that makes sense. and after a while, it kind of did start making sense. It's like, oh man, there's this injury. Okay, it could have been from a stake and not from the implement they claim it was from. Gotcha. No, it makes sense. He was wearing a cloak, you say? Uh-huh. Go on.
Dracula wears a cloak. So, question.
Yes.
Because you're mentioning the book, is two questions, I guess, then. One, do you have to take the cases in a particular order? Do you have to have played, case the first before case the second in order to have seen that newspaper and sort of gotten those clues? Or can you do any case that looks good to you?
You can do whatever you like. I don't think it would actually affect things. I might be wrong on that. I've only played through the first 3. But they're basically you go through until you think you've figured out who and why, the who, what, when, where, why, basically the basics of the mystery. And then you flip toward the end of the booklet where it'll have a little questionnaire. It'll ask you 4 questions about the main case, 4 questions about a side case where if you got led a certain ways on a red herring, you may have discovered a separate mystery, and you may be able to solve that and make up some of the points you lose by going to those places and investigating that thing.
So just because I'm curious, how many cases does the game have? What's the kind of replayability there?
It has 10 cases, and I think there was some talk of an expansion. Maybe it's come out. I haven't paid attention in a year or so. Editor's note, expansion coming this summer. They might be replayable after, you get old. Yeah, after a couple years or something, but not high replayability after you've gone through the 10, at the very least. But after you answer your questions, then Sherlock Holmes comes in and is kind of a condescending dick and is like, obviously, such and such happened and so happened. and in our case, what was annoying is we went to the first 2 places Sherlock went. And he explains that he went to the second place we went to, where the person he visited there told him such and such. And who boy did that person not tell us that. Like, we had to check the booklet again. And we're like, that didn't come up.
Oh. Yeah. So somebody's editor moved some stuff around. It wasn't there anymore.
That might be the case, because case 3, which was the one I first played, that one's just straight up shot. Like, I think there's fan errata that might fix it, which I would highly recommend, because as it is, the solution was changed from the original version in the 80s to this version. Except they didn't remove all of the clues that point to that original solution. So when we got to the end of that one and found out the quote-unquote correct answer, we were pissed. We were pissed off. Yeah, the journey was fun enough that I still ran out and bought it. But, I was not happy. And this one was lesser because we did get there in the end, but if we'd had the information that Sherlock claims he got from, his location number 2, we probably would have gone to his location number 3 instead, which was for us our location 11, I think. Yeah. Ooh. And in the middle there was lots of red fish. But it provides such a unique experience from board games. Like, I haven't had anything even similar from board games or card games or whatever.
I love the idea that whoever's writing the Sherlock Holmes script purposely left out clues so that you couldn't get there perfectly, in the same way that old ladies who say they're going to give you a recipe will give you the recipe, but leave out an ingredient because they don't really want you to be able to do their cake as well as they do. So they're like, oh, did I forget to tell you that there was X in there? I'm so sorry. And you're like, you did that on purpose, didn't you?
Are these the same old ladies that you felt may have inspired Fluffy Bunny Tea Party?
Yes.
Yeah, ruthlessly
Absolutely.
Polite ladies? Yes.
That's great. That's great. So, Steve, anything else for a Sherlock Holmes consulting detective?
No.
All right. I'm gonna hit a double shot of Masks, just updating a little bit of the play there in my continuing efforts to frustrate Dan, because I'm going to tell a very brief story. So in the Saturday morning cartoons, the continuation is the second episode of the 3-shot I'll be running. A little bit of a transition episode. There was a big combat that dominated the first session, and this was the aftermath episode. And I wanted to try something a little different, particularly because in Masks you are playing a superhero team that is, they're good. They're fiery and feisty and young and impressionable, and they make mistakes. But at the core of them, they want to do good things. Well, one of the unforeseen consequences of one of the actions at the end of the last session with the combat with a baddie was that he was killed. It was inadvertent, but as a group, the players said, okay, this thing that you did when he is separated via magic into component parts, because you stole one of the parts, when he reconstitutes, he is unable to reform, and that effectively makes him into a pile of goo. I thought that was pretty dark, but it was fitting with Jason's character, and I thought it was an interesting result. So I wanted to dwell on that. It slowed the session down quite a bit. The idea of, hey, this person that you fought is dead. You didn't intend it, but that is a consequence. And I also wanted to play a little bit with the idea of pop culture. And so there were all of these, and yes, I'm totally influenced by recent events, like Prince passing away, the Twitter followers going crazy. And of course, there's superhero TV related projects and websites. They're all talking about the death of this guy. He was basically a D-bag, but he had enough money and lawyers to kind of coach his PR to make him a neutral but somewhat contested figure. He was, Lex Luthor, I guess you might want to say.
Yeah.
And what was great was that during the first session, there was a tie to one of the player characters with this guy's lineage. So that aftermath meant that Jason's character needed to go inform the daughter of this guy that he is now dead. And so that led to some aftermath. And so it was an interesting experiment. I think that it maybe slowed the session down, and for a 3-shot, perhaps it didn't go as well as I'd like, because I really wanted to introduce this actual fight, right? Because that's why you play this game. These mechanics are geared for fights. It's like playing Dungeon World, but you never go to a dungeon. You play Masks, you fight a supervillain.
Yeah.
And I had an idea, but I wanted to allow things to breathe. And I think maybe I'll let it go for a bit long. I let the players kind of take the lead. And so we didn't get to that until the very last moment of the game, when Mr. Parsley showed up and threw his magical acorn into their apartment. And
wait.
I'm sorry, Mr. Parsley?
Is Mr. Parsley a squirrel?
No, Mr. Parsley looks like a leprechaun, but he is not. And
why does he have a magical acorn?
Because Rich that morning was listening to the Myths and Legends podcast, and they were talking about Rapunzel, and there was an offshoot of that original myth that was very fascinating to me, and I said that could be a supervillain, Mr. Parsley and his magical acorns that turn into dogs and lions.
Oh, okay.
Yes, indeed. Yes, that acorn turned into a giant lion in the middle of their apartment.
It would be great.
And last but not least, the game that I ran for the Intercontinental Group of Awesome, continuing our Masks High School game. I love these guys. They're so good. I have this thing about the Intercontinental Group of Awesome where I never feel like I'm fully prepared, and I'm always wrong to feel worried, because all I need are kernels that I present to the microwave of our game, and it pops into this beautiful popcorn of amazing activity. These players are so rich, and they give and take so well, and they really get into character, and it's a wonderful thing to behold. This game's been pretty fantastic. There was a point where I was running 3 concurrent scenes, 2 of which were out and out fight sequences with completely different antagonists and end goals at the same time, while one player character was rushing off to try to save the life of someone. So, we had kind of the gamut of all the comic book possible plots going on, with a radioactive person in heavy denial to a revenge-seeking parent and the child of one of the others facing off. And so it was pretty exciting. And the smash cutting that I was doing back and forth to try to keep all those balls in the air was really challenging for me to make sure that I could remember what was the point that we stopped at here.
Yeah.
And we pick back up, right? And what's the point that we were at here? But I felt like we pulled it off. It was having a good group that stays engaged and pays attention means that when I come back to that group or that particular pocket, here, okay, the last thing I remember, we were here. And if they're there, right, if they're on point, they'll say yes, 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 or a slight correction. And then we don't miss anything. But if you have a group that is less engaged, or, oh, it's not my scene, hey, let me kind of hang back, let me web surf, because I'm playing over Hangout, let me web surf a little bit, that's cool, I'll come back in. And when they bring you back in, you're like, okay, wait, what was I doing? And I've been guilty
you lose
of that
momentum.
myself.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the fact that these guys are like engaged, they've got the text chat on the side and they're actually giving some commentary back and forth like, oh man, that's amazing. It is really encouraging, and it's so great to keep the energy flowing and going for the entire session. It's one of those where they're like, hey, we should probably take a bio break because we've been going 2 hours nonstop. Yeah, you're right. Let's do that thing. So that was the big highlight for me for the Masks IGOA Intercontinental Group of Awesome.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask.
Cool. So I think that is the end of our playlist, everybody.
And now it's time for community feedback. Did I sound like Jason, you guys?
No,
but it was lovely anyway.
No, thank you.
I like it. You've got your own voice, Steve.
That's
You
right.
use it.
Be your own man.
Hey, all right. Yeah, will do. And as my first act of being my own man, let me tell you guys about something somebody else did. So this week on our this week in our community, Patrick O'Leary put up a post to his blog, which we'll have a link to it in the story notes, talking about the CATS method for making sure everybody is in the same mindset as they go into a game they're about to play. This is the CATS method. CATS is an acronym, but as Patrick correctly points out, everyone loves cats.
Yes, everyone with a soul
loves cats.
Loves cats.
Correct.
Yes.
That's everyone. Absolutely everyone.
There are no people who don't like cats.
At least 2 out of 3 people, based on our limited sample size, love cats.
Yes.
That's only 67%.
Everyone, we agree. So CATS stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. Why is it not CATSMA? Well, that sounds silly. So, so concept is about the high level pitch this game. At a high level, what's it about? And that's just sort of, that's just, basic, what are we about to play? Aim, explain what the players are trying to accomplish. Can someone win? Can everyone lose? Are we trying to tell a specific type of story? Tone is the T. Have a quick conversation about the tone of the game. What's the default? Are there different options for gameplay? Serious versus gonzo, action versus drama, etc. Come to a consensus on what the group wants. And subject matter is sort of the X card lines and veils type of conversation. Subject matter. Explain what ideas might be explored during gameplay. Do they make anyone uncomfortable? Discuss what boundaries need to be set, if any. Afterwards, everyone should have the same expectations for the upcoming game. This discussion shouldn't be long, but it is essential. To significantly improve your gaming experience, spend 5 minutes with cats before you play. Also, to just improve your life, spend 5 minutes with cats.
Spend 5 minutes with cats.
Yeah.
They're good for your blood pressure. Science is proving
That's true. And they're adorable. I'd pinch their little cheeks, but they would probably hate that.
They would hate. Yeah, they would. But if you rub them with your thumb,
that's
they love
true.
that. Yeah.
Well, that's it for the cat cast. What do you guys think of this?
I really like this method. I love that there's 4 sort of pathways that overlap a little bit, depending on what kind of game. I can see them overlapping a little bit, but I like that because we've spoken previously about tone and how you can have the tone conversation and yet still have 2 people who have very different interpretations of that, right?
Yes.
You've given your example of Supernatural early seasons versus late seasons. And so this, I think, is great because after 4 tracks of thought, from the basic level of like, this is what this is going to be about, to here's sort of the tone we're going for, or what our goals are, I think you should really have some unity of expectation. I also really like, and depending on the game, it can be more relevant than others, the warning about subject matter. I'm by no means shrinking violet, and most gameplay stuff does not make me uncomfortable, but there are a couple topics that if they just showed up in the middle of a game, would definitely sort of take me back for a moment. And
yeah, same.
Yeah, and so depending on what game you're playing, I think that would be a really valuable conversation, because you don't want to scare off players, especially people. The Gauntlet, we have people who it'll be their first game, and they're popping in to see what this whole RPG thing is, and might get a game with some really adult themes, and they might be fine with that, but they might also really not be fine with it. So I love the idea that maybe not every game, although I can see the purpose for most games, but especially some, having that conversation and not just assuming that everyone's on the same boat regarding that. I really like this thought process.
Rich?
A couple questions for you guys and how you might deploy this at your table. The suggestion is this is like a 5-minute thing to do at the end. Do you think this is something you'd try to hold to? Because I could see subject matter and tone, if you have someone who just really likes playing devil's advocate, drawing that way the hell out. Like, I've had these conversations with people and they're like, they'll try to, they don't either want no limitations or they really want to drill you down into something. Is this a thing that you think timing would be helpful or conducive to, hey, let's get this done so we can get to an agreement and get it to the table? Or do you think this should be take whatever time it takes to have this conversation?
I think it's about knowing your audience, and if you've got new people at the table, maybe taking just like a couple more minutes. But also, if you've got somebody at the table who has that sort of that agenda, then that seems like a perfect opportunity for the GM, not the DM,
definitely
for
not.
the GM to say, like, here's my vision. Here's what I'm thinking about these things. Does anybody have a problem with that? Okay, no, moving on. But hopefully, most scenarios you'd be able to sort of get it down to the essentials.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. This seems like something that especially if a game is just by its nature, by its rules, aiming for a certain tone, coming in with that as, hey, this is how the thing is tonally. I think aiming for that and bringing that out at the very start can make that conversation very short, theoretically. I haven't had too much trouble with tone conversations in the past. Sounds like, Rich, you have, but I don't know. I at least, I don't foresee too much trouble with this sort of thing.
I think the right concept or pitch will help make this tone conversation easier. I think I hear that's what you're saying, Steve, and I agree. Here's the other question that I have when I was hearing this. These are 4 concepts, or 4 acronyms, whatever. It's 4 things that you could, if you wanted to, maybe just scribble each of them onto a note card and throw in the middle of the table and just have it there for reference. Do you think, is there value in that, or is that just over documentation? Is that something you think that would be helpful?
Ooh, that's interesting. Especially for tone, this sort of touches on something we've talked about before about having a, tone maintenance ritual, I guess. Like, if somebody does something where a person feels like it sort of violates the tone, you kind of hit that card as if it were an X card and someone were, introducing something they're not comfortable with. That's interesting. Sorry, I'm mostly distracting myself. I think that certainly would help, at least to an extent, but as we have seen with Kristen's recent experiments with P-break indicator putting a card over their name tint, utter failure. Sometimes things on the table just sort of get ignored. I think it's easy to... Yeah.
I think, I don't know that concept and subject matter I'd really throw in the middle of the table, but tone for sure would be worth a try if it seems like it's something that's necessary for that particular group. I just think aim might be a good thing to throw in the middle of the table, depending on the game you're playing, to sort of remind people that, like, if we do have a goal here, these are sort of our aims as a group, because sometimes, especially in groups that you're really comfortable with, you can kind of go on sort of side tangents that are fun, but don't contribute to the overall aim you're going for. So that could be helpful too.
I like the CATS method here because it strikes me as a more concise and probably more useful version of the same page tool that most people have probably heard of. And the same page tool it's sort of it's similar to this, but it covers a number of things. And I always sort of looked at it and felt like some of those things didn't need to be covered and other things probably did. While you're getting specific, why don't we talk about X, Y, and Z? And this seems broad enough. Cats seems broad enough that, yeah, I think this would probably cover the things that, whatever I'd want to bring up, I could bring up under one of those headings. Right? Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. My last thought is that I really like
cats
in Primetime Adventures.
You really like cats.
I'm so glad you've gotten on board, Rich. Yay! 3 out of 3.
Pregnant pauses are not working to my advantage. In Primetime Adventures, you can have a rating for your series. And that's one thing that I find is really helpful to encapsulate your subject matter as well, sometimes your tone. So maybe we can make this car. Because it'd be rating.
Oh, I see.
No? No,
it's not bad.
No.
All right, anything else we want to talk about with cats, guys?
No, other than, hey, I like that.
Yeah.
Kristen, you found a cool link that someone shared on the Google Plus community for Gauntlet.
Yes. So Gauntleteer Feral shared a link to some sea treasures, sort of a list that you can roll some dice on or utilize in different ways. And there are lots of these lists sort of floating around the world. And for one, I always think it's interesting how people find certain things that people who have experienced GMing just seem to run across all of these cool little niches in the internet. But this one was particularly cool. And if we have a moment, I'd like to kind of share some of the ones that stood out to me. They have all the normal ones that you'd expect to see from an underwater sea treasure adventure. So treasures themselves and rare plant life or whatever that you could use for a ritual. There's humorous things like a bag of citrus, which really amuses me because one of the things is that you can remove a disease or debility. And of course, the history lover in me is like, yes, no scurvy, it's great. So that was funny. But two of the ones that I really liked, one of them was called A Memorable Sight. The brilliant light display of thousands of deep-sea fish, a chasm leagues deep with a line of glowing magma engraved below, or a stroll within the double skull of the extinct Megabeneth. Such an experience cannot be sold, nor, however, can it be stolen from you. If found underwater, you suffer the fisherman's curse. No one will believe the size or scale of the tale you tell. So, it's a treasure, but it's like a treasure of your mind, and I love it. I love that there's something on this table that has no monetary value. It's just color. It's just something that makes your gaming world a little bit more beautiful and a little bit more complex. There are other treasures on here that build stories, but that particular one just really struck me because I'm thinking as the school year approaches winding down, it's ramping up for AP testing season, but at the end of the school year and into the summer, I'm thinking of running some games, and I love that tools like this don't have to be a literal table of treasures. They can be that, and you can roll on them and find a thing, but they can also be more than just color text or a list of goodies to steal from some mermaids.
Yeah.
It's confidence. It's confidence for new GMs, and it's world building stuff. It's things that you can put in your game that players don't need to know there was a table that you read something off of, but it makes the world you're building more vibrant. And if you're new at that, or at least rusty at that, running a game for people who play all the time can be very intimidating. And I love the world that this helps you create. So, yeah, I was a big fan of the Sea Treasure list.
Yeah, it's a very enjoyably story-heavy list. Like, I was, going through expecting to see a bunch of, this will give you a +2 to blah, blah, blah. And it's just, words. Where are all the stats? How do I kill things with it?
And they had that. They had hats that if you wear the hat, people will listen to, take a +1 to bossing people about and things like that. But yeah, there were lots of really good, colorful narrative treasures in there.
Thank you, Farrell. And also, the Sea Treasure Tables was created by Aaron Feild. Aaron Feild is a member of Indie Plus. He's actually run a number of games for Indie Plus over the history of that group. So thanks to Aaron for sharing that. That's actually been around for a little bit, so it's cool to rediscover. That's one of the great things about the internet, right?
Thank you, Aaron. Really it's cool gorgeous.
With a citrus bag, you can ignore one annoyance of travel for an entire day. Describe the annoyance and
love the citrus bag.
And tell how wonderful the fruit tastes to distract you from it.
It's really so cool. Good. I love the citrus bag.
Kristen, do you have anything else that you want to talk about with the Sea Treasure Tables?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, listeners, we have come to the end of another episode of The Gauntlet. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have not already, please do rate us on your favorite podcast app or podcatcher, because those ratings will help other people experience The Gauntlet and the Gauntlet community. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Thank you.
And thank you, Steve.
You bet.
And thank you, listeners.
Rich, what do you think about the article though?
I think it's pretty cool.
Oh, so you love cats? QED.
Oh,
yes.
You snuck me.
Yes.
Oh man, I can't believe I've been snookered.